All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very special guest who's going to help us understand how performance and trust are correlated and which one is more important. He's the candidate for the Collin County Court at Law number 5. Coming up next, the highly respected and highly decorated Army man himself, Jimmy Angelino, next on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. All righty, welcome everybody. We are super stoked to have you guys here today, and I couldn't be more honored than to have a good friend of mine and a gentleman that I've done some business with in the past when it comes to real estate. Jimmy Angelino is here today, and I'm going to tell you why this is a special honor. He has an illustrious career serving people. He has the heart of a servant. He's a great leader. And we're going to do a little deep dive in today into why it is so important that your trust quotient be as high as it can be. And we're going to go ahead and bring Jimmy on right now. Jimmy, welcome to the show today, man. We are super stoked. C3 and I have been looking forward to this for some time now.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm honored to be here with you. Cliff's a great friend, and it's just an honor to be here with both C3 and Cliff.
Well, we're excited, and we're going to go ahead and get right into some things. First of all, for those of you who don't know Jimmy, he's a longtime resident of Collin County and has a long career of service, both in the military and in the civil service with the police department and so forth. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, Jimmy. But the thing I wanted people to know first is that in next month, you've got a very important election coming up, right?
Yes, that's correct. We have the Republican primary. Actually, early voting starts February 14th on Monday, and then the actual election day is March 1st. Valentine's Day.
Get out there and show some love to Jimmy on February 14th. That's awesome. Perfect. Well, Jimmy, so we're going to talk about your history, but this is not your first time to run. Tell us a little bit about why you're in this race.
Sure. I want to serve. I want to make a difference, and I've always tried to make a difference in whatever I did. My first job, I was a Dallas police officer, where I was decorated twice for saving people's lives. I have the heart of a servant, and the main reason is because of my background and my upbringing. I'm proud to say that I'm a third-generation American, that my great-grandfather came over from Italy, and when I was little, he was still alive, which was important. And the reason that was important is because he told me of the struggles he went through to come to this country. And he also told me what a great country this was, how I should be proud to serve and proud to live in this country, and that I should realize how lucky I am to be born here, and that you should always do whatever you can to protect this great country, because there's no other country like this in the world. So I was brought up on that. And when I first moved to Texas, the first thing I wanted to do, my father was a New York City police officer, is I applied to the Dallas Police Department and got hired there. And that's where I first started to serve. I loved my job. I was a patrol officer. I also became president of the police union that they had there. I was there for 7.5 years. Mm-hmm. So that's where I first started with my long career of service.
And, this is really, Jim, we talked about this a little bit, but you're sort of hardwired for this kind of thing. Your brother's a police officer. Let's go back to was it your grandfather?
My great-grandfather
who served in Normandy?
Oh, his son.
His son.
Right.
Okay.
My great-grandfather came over in, I want to say 1908. Okay, his firstborn son was drafted, was in the Army and was killed in action at Normandy. He was in the 29th Infantry, which if you watch Saving Private Ryan, that was his unit. And as a matter of fact, if you read up on his unit, every officer and NCO was mortally wounded within the first 15 minutes. And he was killed within the first 15 minutes.
Wow.
So he served in the Army. My father was in the Coast Guard, also a New York City police officer. I have two brothers from New York. One was a Nassau County police officer. The other was a sheriff's deputy. My brother Jay just retired after 28 years in the Dallas Police Department.
That's fantastic. Wow. So, man, with all that background and the knowledge that you've learned outside of just being a lawyer. Now, you graduated from SMU with your law degree.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about your career as an attorney.
Okay. Well, I went to law school while I worked full-time as a police officer. So once I passed the bar, I got hired by the Denton County District Attorney's Office. Because I was looking, as a police officer, you can only do so much. So I was like, okay, what's the next step, okay, to protect people? And that was becoming an assistant district attorney where you can put away criminals. So I got hired by the Denton County District Attorney's Office, and after a couple of years, I created my own position. I wrote a grant that paid for me being the DWI prosecutor. And basically what it meant is that I would handle all felony intoxication offenses, which are DWI thirds, intox assaults, intoxication manslaughters. And I would also go out and go to schools and teach them about the dangers of drinking and driving, because, you know, we have University of North Texas out there, so I would go out and speak at the colleges. And I would also go around the country teaching police officers and prosecutors how to better prosecute those type of cases. I was there for 11 and a half years. I became one of their best trial attorneys. I think I lost 3 cases in 11 and a half years. And they're not easy cases. And also, one of the things, too, is what I'm proud of. I actually got 4 life sentences prosecuting felony DWIs with no accidents and no injuries.
Wow, that's strong.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, Denton County was pretty tough on those.
Right. Talk to us a little bit about your leadership skills and why you feel like you're different than the gentlemen or the folks that you're running against.
Yes. Well, the other people that I'm running against, and I'm not saying this in the wrong way, but they're just attorneys. They've never done anything else outside of that. So when people say they want to serve, the easiest way to see if they're just saying that or if they actually have is by looking at their past. And I've served. My whole life has been service. You know, as a police officer, not only as an attorney, but as an Army officer. You know, I was a little late bloomer. I joined the Army when I was 39 years old. So I got in, and it took them like a year to get me in because they kept on losing my paperwork. Typical,
wow.
Yeah, typical military stuff. They lost my security clearance paperwork in the old days. They were carbon copies. So it's not like you had it on the computer and you could print it off again. They lost it, and they gave you another carbon copy thing to fill out.
Right.
So when they finally got me in, it was June of 2001. So we all know what happened on 9/11. And I immediately called my bosses and said, listen, I want to go. Our country's been hit. I want to go. And he laughed, and he said, well, they don't call JAGs up because I'm a JAG, which means I'm a Judge Advocate General, so I'm an attorney. Basically, at that time, I was a defense attorney for soldiers. So then a month later, he calls me up and says, get ready, they might be sending people. So it wasn't until Iraq came that they actually called me up, and I ended up going first to Fort Hood, where I was attached to 1st Cavalry, and then I switched over to 4ID so I could get deployed to Iraq. And there is no experience like being in the military. Plus, I was an officer. So, and I just retired October 1st, after 20 years in the military as a lieutenant colonel.
That's awesome. Congratulations on doing the 20. We really appreciate all the service and time you put in. It's a huge sacrifice, I know. Jimmy, I want to talk a little bit about, because I watched a video that Simon Sinek did, and it was describing how commanders will pick the Navy SEALs. And on one graph, there's performance, and on the other graph, there is trust. And it was clear watching this video that trust is the most important component of those two and that if a commander had a difference of, say, someone who was high performance and low trust versus somebody who was high trust and not so high performance, they would go with the trust. You've led young men in service in Afghanistan and other places. Tell us a little bit about how your world of trust has changed on, like, for example, on the battlefield. Why is trust why is it so important?
Well, it's funny because when you say that, the first thing I think of is A Few Good Men. When they were talking about, have you ever put your life in someone else's hand? Have you ever sat next to them and expect them to protect you? When you're in a war zone, now I was in Iraq, and when I'm with my other fellow JAG members, okay, I have to be able to trust that. We used to call it in the old days, would you want him in your foxhole? And it's got to be like that, because you can't be everywhere, especially like a team, a well-oiled team like the SEALs. You have to be able to trust that person right next to you that he's going to do what he's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Okay, because if you don't, the whole team falls apart. And it's trust and loyalty. I want to put them probably both together. Okay, is that, as a member of the military, I have to trust you. Like when somebody asked me once what I thought of another politician, and it was Colonel West. Mm-hmm. And he said, what do you think about him? And I said, well, if I told you, you might not understand, because you have to be in the military to understand what I said. And he goes, well, what? I said, I would trust him with my life and my family's life. And that's the most important thing. Do you trust him? Do you know that he has your back, especially in a war zone? And it's important. Just like that article said, it's probably the most important thing, that you know that person's there for you. I would I would die for this country. I put my life on the line because that's how strongly I feel about this country. And I think we talked about duty, honor, country, okay, at West Point, okay? That's exactly what I believe. And if I had to, we all say, I don't want to die, but if I had to for my country, I would, because this country is more important than I am. And loyalty and trust are the utmost things that a military has to be built on.
When you get elected, I'm going to future pace here. When you get elected this time, and you serve in there and you retire, how do you want to be remembered as a judge?
I want to be remembered as making a difference, because that's the key. And I think I've talked to you before. Collin County is one of the counties that has what they call a veterans court. Judge Roach runs it. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they help veterans who have PTSD, TBI, or PTSD. Everybody knows TBI is traumatic brain injury. Okay, and get in trouble. And then what that court does is it's a treatment court. So it helps these people gain or become where they could function in civilization, okay? Because unfortunately, because of their service, they've seen things that we never will, and I hope we don't. And some people can't handle that. So this helps them through the maze that is the VA. So what I was with that team when they first stood up for the first couple of years, and I loved helping veterans because they deserve our help. So what I'm proposing to do is help Judge Roach. Judge Roach has way too many veterans, so I have asked him, and I'm going to try to help him with Veterans Court. So if I could save one or two veterans, okay, from going off the end, or as we saw, and I think I told you this, if people don't recognize this is from a ring from 22 Kill, because 22 veterans a day kill themselves. And that's just way too many, okay? And it's because we're not getting them the help they need. So if I could just help a couple of people, just one, who might have gone off the deep end, but now because of what I could do for them or what I've helped, they aren't anymore. My career is a success. And I've done what I wanted to. That's what I always looked at. Was I able to help? Was I able to change someone's life? And that's what I'm hoping for.
Can you talk a little bit more about 22 Kill? And if any members in our audience were interested in learning how they can help and participate in, this is a horrible problem. My God, 22 veterans a day committing suicide. Can you just elaborate on on that organization?
Sure, it's a great organization. You could just Google 22 Kill, go to their website, and donate to them, okay? Because they do a wonderful job of trying to help veterans with the silent disease that nobody knows about, okay? That's the mental health aspects, okay? Because, you know, the sad thing is because they're veterans, they don't like to admit that they have demons, okay? Because they think it makes them look weak. I spoke to the Veterans Court one time, and that's what I told them. I said, the one thing you have to understand is that you're not weak by being here. As a matter of fact, everybody in this room is a hero, because everyone here has been part of the 1% that actually serves, okay, that volunteered to serve, that volunteered to defend their country. And it's important that you realize that you are a hero. And there's no way any of these people should commit suicide because they're not getting services. The biggest thing is that they have trouble navigating the VA system, okay, because it's hard. So the one good thing about veterans courts and people like 22 Kill, they can help you get those services. Like in the veterans court, they actually set up the appointments for them, so they don't have to try to get appointments. They actually set them up for them. We're also able to see if they go to the appointments. We can get them drug treatment. We can get them alcohol treatment. So stuff that they need to become a regular citizen again, you know, because they're fighting these demons, which they should not be ashamed of. But a lot of them they are, because they figure that I'm weak, you know, because I'm feeling this way. I can't cope, and I don't want people to know that. There's no disgrace in admitting that you have some problems that you need help with, okay? Because I don't want to go to a funeral of somebody that I know because they committed suicide, because we didn't know or we weren't able to get them the help. So if I could help that sitting on the bench, that's what I want to do.
That's outstanding. And I just want to say, if anybody out there is interested in contributing, if you'll just this is going to be on Facebook Live and on YouTube, drop your name and the amount you want to contribute. I'll match everything up to $1,000. If we can get some participation out there. It's 22 Kill. I'm sorry we don't have the website address, but it's easy to find, Jimmy, I'm sure. So let's see if we can take some action here as a group and help out with that. Jimmy, you do have a heart of service and a heart for the community. What specific things, when you get elected, are you going to look to change, if anything, about what your predecessors have done in that seat, in that bench?
Well, actually, the person who's in there right now, Judge Wilson, has done a fantastic job. So what I'm going to try to do is do the same things that he has done. That's one of the easiest courts for people to work in. It's also a court that he protects everybody's constitutional rights. And that's an important thing, too, because some judges will say, well, you know, I'm a referee and everything. No, your job is to protect people's constitutional rights. And he's done a wonderful job of that. So that's what I want to make sure, that when people come into my courtroom, okay, and it doesn't matter if you're a victim, a defendant, a lawyer, or just a civilian who wants to come in, okay, that you're not afraid to come into the court, that we help you in any way we can, and that your constitutional rights are protected.
Can you kind of unpack we hear the term constitutional rights. What specifically are you talking about?
Well,
there?
Let's say the right to free speech, the right to say something, okay, the right to confrontation, the Sixth Amendment, that you're allowed to cross-examine your accusers. Okay, that's probably one of the most important things that you'll see in trial, is your right to do that, and your right to be heard. Okay, you know, right now, they're trying to cut down on our speech rights. They're trying to cut down on our Second Amendment rights. You know, they're trying to cut down on our Sixth Amendment rights. Whether, you know, they just shut you down without ever being able to talk to your accusers. Okay, that's not the way it's supposed to be. And those are the most important things that we see in court.
So is it important for somebody in that position to have a high trust factor?
Oh, of course. You have to be able to trust the judge is going to do the right thing, and without a doubt. And that comes into point like when there are two different types of trials. One is a jury trial where you pick a jury, and the other is a bench trial. Okay, you have to be comfortable with going to the judge on a bench trial and know that he's going to do the right thing, whether it looks good or not. Okay, and that's when you know you have a good judge, is if somebody's going to go say, oh, I won't have a problem doing a bench trial in front of him, because I know what he will do the right thing, even if law enforcement gets mad at him or the DA's office gets mad, that they're doing the right thing.
You know, a lot of people say that in order to get somewhere in life, you have to visualize it. You have to have sort of had a vision about it at some point earlier. For example, I think if I recall when Mark Spitz was swimming for his 8th medal, he was being interviewed in was that the 80s, 1980, I think it was,
Right.
Olympics, and the reporter asked him, did you ever in your life think you'd be standing here about to swim for your 8th gold medal in the Olympics? And he got quiet and reflective, and he said, you know, I was about 6 years old when I had that vision. Yeah. And, you know, to be able to think that somebody had seen it that far in advance. So this whole idea of you becoming a judge, when did you first have that sort of zero moment of truth that that's what your calling was?
Probably about 10 years ago.
And what was it? Describe that moment for us.
Sure. At that point, I'm a defense attorney. Okay. And as a defense attorney, you know, a lot of people don't like defense attorneys until you need one. That's like when I was in the military. You know, a lot of the officers I was with Trial Defense Services, and our motto was protecting those who protect us. And commanders didn't like it until they needed you. Okay, but we do protect people's rights to make sure that the state proves cases against you and doesn't, you know, because a lot of times you don't know if the case is true or not, the DAs. They just file it. Okay, so I was like, what can I do to make a difference? And part of it was, and maybe it wasn't 10, maybe it was after 10 years. I'm trying to think when the Veterans Court started. Okay, and just before that, I was like, you know what, I can make a difference as a judge. Okay, I'm not just sitting there just ruling on stuff. I could actually make a difference. And there were treatment courts, and I've actually changed my view on treatment courts. Because when I was a DA, all I did was intoxication offenses. People would come up to me and say, well, my client's an alcoholic. I said, okay, that's not against the law. It's just that when you get in the car and risk everybody else's life, that's when it's against the law. And then on the military side, I'm doing all these chapter actions is when they trying to kick soldiers out of the military without going to a court-martial. And I see all these drug abuses and all this, and it's because of what we did, meaning sending them to war.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these people need help. They need services. So, and then I've seen how good these courts work and what a success rate they have. And I was like, this is what we need to do. So when I started thinking about that, and then I see Judge Roach and the great job that he does, you know, he inspired me, and that's exactly why I wanted to do it.
Right. Let's talk just for a minute here about the people who have put their name on the line supporting you. Who, Alan West, for example. Why do you feel like he's behind you?
Well, he served with me in Iraq, and as a matter of fact, I was part of his court-martial defense team. So I've known him since 2003. And as a matter of fact, I have lost a hearing in my left ear because we were in Tikrit, Iraq, and they blew up, 4ID was blowing up munitions. They blew up munitions close to us. The glass where I was standing right next to, the big window, blew out. A piece of glass this big flew right past my head, and Colonel West was sitting right next to me. So we've gone through a lot of stuff, and he was a friend. You know, I consider him a friend. And this is way before he even decided to run for governor. You know, I used to go to lunch with him whenever I saw him here, and it's that bond that two military members have.
Right.
You know, and he's actually given me more credit than I deserve. Like when he announced me, you know, and told people that he was supporting me. But he's like one of the people I talk about, that I would trust him with my life, and hopefully he would trust me the same way.
Right. So who are some of the other big names who've endorsed you?
Keith Self.
Sure, Judge Self. Yeah.
I've been endorsed by the Collin County Conservative Republicans, We the People Allen, the Texas Red Wave, the Texas Right to Life, the True Texas Project. Every police department that has endorsed me. I'm still waiting on one. So I have a bunch of endorsements. Then, of course, a whole bunch of attorneys and military members. On my website, it tells, you know, they tell what they think of me as a person, as an attorney, and as a military leader.
Great, great. I'd like to shift gears here just for a second and talk about some of the things, the crazy things that are going on in our country. And I look at our neighbor down to the south, Austin, for example, where they've, defunded the police, and then you go west to San Francisco, where they've changed the misdemeanor law there to where I think is it anything under $1,000 or $900, and they won't even arrest you. People can. It's basically just an open door policy. What do you think is going on here? What's wrong?
I think they're trying to please their left wing base, because just remember, all these people who are changing the law and saying that, they don't live there. They don't live in San Francisco. Nancy Pelosi lives in a gated community where they will never get to them. If you look at a lot of those politicians who say, get rid of the police, they're spending $160,000 on private security. Okay, so it doesn't affect them, and that's the big problem, is that all these people who are saying this, those ramifications from what they're doing, it doesn't affect them. It affects the people who are living in those states. And a lot of times it's affecting the poor people. Do you think that poor people, no matter what they say and how racist the police department, do you think they don't want police in their neighborhoods? No, of course not. They want them there.
Yeah.
Because they're protecting them.
Yeah, they've almost started criminalizing capitalism.
Yes,
and
they sure have.
Making rich people, quote unquote, responsible for all their problems and the bad things that are happening in society right now. If that were to ever happen here, how would things look at your level? Are the judges here? We're elected. We're not appointed here.
Correct.
So how would that play out? Like, for example, Dallas is going to be a lot different, Dallas County, than Collin County.
Right.
What kind of influence at that point does the judge have on just kind of the direction of the way things are going? Are you totally, because you have to run on a platform, you either run as a Democrat or a Republican. How does that pan out?
We have absolutely nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
Right. Yeah. Because what you were talking about is like when they get rid of crimes. Well, if they get rid of crimes, the DA's office isn't filing it. If the DA's office isn't filing it, that means nobody's getting arrested for those crimes. Nobody's taking pleas, no one's going to court, so we absolutely don't see it. That's like I tell people when some people will say, well, possession of marijuana shouldn't be. I said, listen, you enforce all the laws that are on the books, okay? I'm a big proponent of that. My job is not to determine what law should be followed and what law shouldn't.
Right, sure. Right.
Yeah. I believe in the rule of law. That if it's a law, you enforce it. If you don't like the law, then you get rid of it.
Change the law.
Right. And where your feelings on that might come is on punishment. Okay, is where you might be a little bit more lenient on punishment if you don't agree with it. But don't give me, my job as a judge is not to interpret the law. It's to follow the law.
So I guess there was an argument that there was a big backlog in the court system and it was overworked, overburdened, and so forth. What do you say to that?
Well, I actually have talked to the judge before me and got his statistics. They're basically about the same as it always is. So there really hasn't been that much of an influx and a backlog. I think they've made up for it, and what they did is they made dockets, which is when the defendants come in, more prevalent. Okay, where it used to be just Thursdays and Fridays, now they have dockets Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so they get people in front of them quicker. Okay, but a judge, and this is what I told somebody: if there was a backlog, a judge by himself can't do anything. There are three different aspects of that. Number one is the judge. Number two is the DA's office. And number three is the defense attorney. So all three of them have to work together to try to get rid of cases, because one side can't do it by themselves.
Okay.
So, but from what I'm told, and from the statistics I've seen, there hasn't been, or at least right now, there is no backlog. It's basically the same as it always has been.
Tell us about the court itself. Do you see both civil and criminal cases in there?
Yes. Right now, as of the end of December, there were 1,400 pending criminal cases. there are about 300 pending civil cases. So it's mostly a criminal court.
Right.
I think 65% of the cases filed in these courts are DWIs. So you'll have DWIs, simple assaults, okay, thefts under a certain amount of money, driving while intoxicated, driving with your license suspended, stuff like that.
So, and in fact, most of your career has been on the criminal side.
Yes, almost all of it. I've done some other civil stuff on the military side, administrative stuff on the military side, but it's been almost all criminal.
Okay. Is Collin County safe? Are we safe here?
Right now we are.
Yeah.
I think we are. I think our police departments do a wonderful job. I don't think, you haven't heard anybody in Collin County saying to get rid of the police. As a matter of fact, they want more police. Yeah. So we are still very, very good about that.
Yeah.
And the sheriff does a great job. Everyone in the police department, I live in Prosper. Great police department. Come very quickly if there's a call. Same thing with McKinney and Plano and Richardson and all those police departments. They do a wonderful job. Now, I would guess that they could probably use money and more officers, but I think on the whole, we're pretty safe. You don't see the stuff that you see in Dallas and Collin County, where people just robbing places, going in and shoplifting in front of people. You just don't see that as much in Collin County.
Yeah. There are some people who might say the reason for that, Jimmy, is because we don't have the same issues to deal with that Dallas had. Do you think that Dallas sort of created their own problem with the way they've handled the police department down there? I mean, you were in, and I don't want to put you on the line here, but something just hasn't been a smooth thing down there for the last 15 years, maybe?
They changed the way they allow you to police, and that's the big difference. When I was a police officer, you could actually chase somebody if they shot somebody and took off in a car. You can't do that anymore. As a matter of fact, you have more of a chance to get in trouble if you do your job than just not doing anything. And that's what it breeds. Like when you put so many rules on a police officer that he can't do this, he can't do that, it bleeds, okay, then why do I even do anything? I'll just go out there. If there's somebody there who runs, I just let him go and I make a report. And it just becomes a glorified report writing person instead of an actual police officer who could arrest bad guys. Because everybody who goes into police work wants to arrest bad guys and protect citizens. Every one of them. They don't go in there for power. They don't get in there because they want to beat people up. They get in there because they want to protect the citizens. But they also want to get home at night too. And that's a big thing people forget.
Amen.
Is that they want to go home.
Right.
So they don't want to get into a fight. They don't want to shoot somebody. They don't want to get into that situation. It's just like I forgot who said it, but they were talking about the people who don't like war, okay, are the soldiers, because they're the ones who are most affected by it. So they don't look for war, but if we have to protect our country, we will.
Jimmy, I know it's premature probably to ask you this, but I ask these kinds of questions because I can. But let's say after you're judge, what are your plans?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Yes. I hope to retire and enjoy my life before the good Lord calls me home.
I just don't see you retiring. I think you're going to wear out before you rust out.
That might be
personally,
the case. But
yeah.
We always think about, I really like to retire. I have my best friend that I grew up with, he retired maybe about 5 years ago and he just passed away.
Yeah.
And he's my age. So, life is short. You don't know when you're going to go.
It is.
So you hope, I see too many people who just retire, don't get a chance to enjoy it, and then pass away. So I hope that the good Lord doesn't call me back, before I get a chance chance to enjoy myself for a little bit.
We've had a chance to look at the serious side of Jimmy here. What's the fun side of Jimmy like? What do you like to do for fun?
I'm a sports fanatic. So I love going to games. It's funny, I don't watch anything but sports and old movies. Turner classic movies, I watch that all the time, or sports. So I have, the football package, the hockey package, the baseball package. So that, I love sports. And I love going to the movies too with my family, doing stuff like that and vacations.
Right,
You know,
right.
even though I've gone to Disney World like 7 years in a row, I'm trying to get them to do something different than that. But
Well, in fact, we were talking at lunch that you might you were looking at Italy,
Yes, sir.
where you're from originally, and you recently had an opportunity to go back and trace your ancestry. And what did you find?
It's funny because my grandfather, we call him Poppy. And I used to ask him, I said, Poppy, where's our family from? That's the Angelino side. I know the other side where they're from because my great grandfather was alive. So, and he came over. So he goes, I don't know, Brooklyn. I said, no, in Italy. He'd go, ask Mary, which was my grandmother. And she'd go, he doesn't know because he's a mutt. So I found out that he's actually from a small town in Salerno. My great-great-great-grandfather. He came over here in 1898 or something like that.
Right.
So now at least, and his name was Giuseppe, and Giuseppe Angelino. So now I've got everybody. So I know who everybody was in my family, at least up to him.
Right, right. That's incredible. You have your family again, your beautiful wife, Misty, and your children. You said you went to Disney for the last 7 years.
Something like
if
that.
that's not, man, I'll tell you what. If that's not Americana, I don't know what is. What do you like best about being in Texas, Jimmy?
The people.
The people.
I love their attitude. I came here as quick as I could, and I love it here. I love where they used to say, "I'm from Texas. What country are you from?"
Sure. Right.
And greatest people in the world, law-abiding, love their country, love their state. How could you have anything better?
Right, right. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that, being a full-blooded, born and raised here.
Yeah.
But when you look back at Texas history, it was a bit of a colorful past. In fact, I tell my Tennessee friends often, if it wasn't for Tennessee, there wouldn't be any Texas.
That's right.
So we're all actually not from Texas. We got here another way, but we're all glad that we're here. I can't think of another place I'd rather live. I thank my lucky stars at night, every night, because we're here in Texas.
Yeah.
It definitely shows through the real estate market too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And speaking of which, we're in the real estate business. You and I had also chatted a bit about the shortage of inventory. What's your kind of take on the impact from where you are, this housing problem that we have? We can't ignore it. It's a problem. We have a shortage. In fact, in Dallas, in this area, we're about 178,000 houses short from the builder standpoint of being at equilibrium. Do you have a crystal ball that's going to tell us how this is going to come out?
It's hard, especially with who we have in the White House right now. Because their policies affect everything. And that's why people are moving. Okay, we're getting the California people coming in, and their housing market is so crazy. That they have a 1,700 square foot house that they sell for $1.5 million. Then come to Texas and, wow, look what I can get for $1.5 million. You know what I mean? I don't have to tell you on that. And I think I saw something that said in Collin County they only had 65 houses that
On
looked
the
like they
market?
were
Yeah.
and listed.
Yeah, house prices alone year over year last month were up 23%. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is.
And that's going to obviously have an impact. Jimmy, as Collin County continues to grow, obviously this is the bullseye for growth in this area. You could just take the tollway in 380 and draw a circle around it. You've got Denton County to the west, Collin County to the east. What is this? How is this area going to change while you're judge? What do you see?
I see more people coming. Okay, with more people, you're going to have more crime. Okay, so at some point, you're probably going to have a couple of more courts, stood up because to handle that amount of people. But when I first moved to Collin County. I was living in Plano, right off of Park and Custer. You could go straight up Custer, and there were still farms out there.
Sure.
Okay?
2-lane.
That's
Yeah.
exactly. You just go straight down there, all these farms. Now, there's nothing there, and it's happening in Prosper. There are still some places where you have some horse farms and a lot of land, but that's soon to be gone, because when builders come in and offer them buku money for their land, they're going to sell sooner or later. Yeah. So, it's having those big lots, just like, people like, and not having your neighbor next to you, I think sooner or later that's going to be a thing of the past.
Yeah,
You're going to get 0 lots where you can look right inside your
I hope not.
neighbor's house.
Yeah, that's what
thanks.
That's why most people moved out here to begin with, is
Yep.
because of the larger lots and so forth. Jimmy, is there anything that we haven't asked you that we should have asked you today about this honor that you have of serving your county?
I don't think so. It's hard. I don't like really talking about myself. And the thing that you talk about, somebody says, "Man, you've done a whole lot," and I've never thought about that. Like maybe when I look back and say, "Yeah, I never thought I was going to be a police officer. I never thought I'd be a lawyer." I've always wanted to join the military. I almost went to an academy in high school, but said, I don't want to do the 4 years. Then it finally took me until I was 39 to do that. And I loved it. I tried to stay, but I was too old. They kicked me out, So, and I really loved that. So if I look back on stuff, I'm just proud that I was able to do what I have done, and I want to continue doing good, because that's what it's really all about. Leaving where you are in a better place than before you were there.
All right, I'm going to ask you maybe one more question here. How important is faith to you?
No, it's everything. My mother. I laugh because I'm a Methodist Italian, okay? Ever see Methodist Italians? They're all Catholic. So growing up on Long Island, there was only one church, because everybody's Jewish or Catholic.
Right.
And it was at 10 o'clock. And if people know how the bar system is in New York, the bars close at 4. They close at 4. So I would go out until 4 o'clock in the morning, then we'd go to a diner, and I'd eat, and then go to bed, and my mother would wake me up and make me go to church, because there's only one service, and it's at 10 o'clock. And I'm like, no, I'm not going. You're going to go? No, I'm not going. Yes, you are. No. Then she goes, see if I care. So she made me feel guilty. So I'd get up, I'd get dressed, I'd go to church, I'd have my sunglasses on, and my mother would go to me, she'd go, what? She'd say something, and I look at her and I said, what? She goes, oh, you smell like a brewery. I said, that's because I'm still intoxicated. But she made me go. And she really, it was something that I needed back then, because my mother always said, Jimmy, you can give 1 hour a week to God. And now I give a whole lot more than one week. Okay? It's the thing that changed my life, is God, my faith has changed my life. It has made, anytime I was a little bit worried, okay, the man upstairs has always looked out for me. We were talking about how sometimes when you work for yourself, you're coming up on that place where you have to pay bills and you don't have the money. Okay, and then I pray and everything, and then all of a sudden the client would come in. Okay, he has always taken care of me. And I wouldn't be here without my faith in him and what he's been able to do for me.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And I think that's probably a great way. I hate to say this, but we're at the end of our allotted time here, and probably a really good place to wrap it up. And I'm just so excited to have you here, Jimmy, with us, and your message about faith and trust and doing the right thing. In our business, in the real estate business, I wouldn't say that the trust level, the public perception of most real estate agents is up there off the charts on the trust level. And that's something that is obviously one of our core values. That's why we resonate so well with you. And I just thank you for sharing this with our audience today to encourage them. I mean, we get one shot to build up our name and our brand and everything.
That's right.
And you can literally take it down in just a matter of a stupid post or something like that. So it's something we all have to be conscious of. And frankly, I'm so ready for a turnaround in the attitude of this country. And I just thank you for who you are and what you stand for. And I can't wait to come shake your hand on Election Day after you win. So congratulations. I know I'm putting it out there. but that's the way we are. So.
Well, thanks, Cliff. And do you mind if I just say one other thing?
Yes, sir.
People, if you'd like to see more about me, okay, my website is angelinoforjudge.com. It'll tell you everything about me. It'll tell you about who has endorsed me. And please don't forget, February 14th is early voting, and the actual election is March 1st. The judges are all the way on the bottom of the ballot, which is a bad thing. A lot of people don't know about judges. I'm number 4. There are three other people. I'm number 4, Jimmy Angelino. So I would appreciate your support and your vote.
That's right. Get out there, vote early, and vote often is what we say, right, Jimmy? Something like that? All right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, C3, isn't it wonderful? Tell you, it's great to be alive and be in Texas, my
Sure
son.
is.
Sure is.
Wouldn't want to be in another place.
Amen to that. Well, all right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for another edition of Cliff's Notes. We enjoyed bringing you something a little new. I hope you found this refreshing. We're not getting out of the real estate topic, but this was relevant and timely, and I just wanted to really share it's on my heart, to do some things for our community as we continue to work to help you guys become better at your trade and help you develop into leaders. So, Trelvis, thank you, kind sir. Didn't get a chance to say hello, but we did survive the cruise, the boat trip, and we are back and in the saddle, I guess, next week. We're back until we go to Cabo in the first week of March, and then we'll be off for again. But anyway, you guys tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel. We'll be here looking for you right on Cliff's Notes. All right, folks, tune in to Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I guarantee it!